Hello everyone, welcome back to all of you in the Smelly Army. So today we're going to be having a look at my top 10 fragrances worn by famous male celebrities. Before we do that, I'm going to give you a little bit of a rundown on my top 10 fragrance videos released by my competitors on other YouTube channels this week. Here we go. At number 10, it's top 10 fragrance videos you must watch today by Top 10 Tommy. At number 9, it's top 10 reasons Creed Aventus is still a top 10 fragrance by Sentimental Steve. And at number 8, it's top 1000 petty-grain fragrances by Smelling Sensational Fragrance Reviews. Number 7, it's best most complimented date fragrance to get a girlfriend in 2020 by Scent to Deliver Us from Evil. At number 6, it's top 10 fragrances I received free in the post this morning by the Fragrance Opportunist. At number 5, it's top 10 best sexy 10 out of 10 best most complimented fragrances by Scented and Demented. And at number 4, we've got top 6 fragrances to help you earn a 6-figure salary this year and be the most complimented person alive by the Scent Deceiver. At number 3, it's top 15 fragrances to give you 6-pack abs in 10 minutes by Seems Legit Fragrances. At number 2, it's Somebody Please Help Me, I Just Want to Be Loved for Who I Really Am, I Never Meant Things to Turn Out This Way by Jeremy Fragrance. And at number 1, it's top 10 fragrances to think about while you look at my cleavage by Scent Sexy. Okay guys, yes, welcome back. So fragrances worn by male celebrities, always a kind of intriguing thing. There are a few lists out there online, written lists from Dapper International Magazine or GQ or whatever. All of these, take them with a pinch of salt, because I doubt that all these celebrities only wear one fragrance all the time. We don't know when the information is from. Maybe they wore these 5 years ago. They don't anymore. It's a little bit spurious, but it could be entertaining. So let's check it out. First up, Will Smith, the famous star of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air back in the 1990s when I was growing up, and of course, untold numbers of hugely successful movies since then. He apparently, this is very surprising to me, apparently his scent of choice is Vera Wang Men, from the house of Vera Wang, of course. Now, you can pick this up in the UK for incredibly cheap prices. I've seen it for about £10 for 100ml. It's certainly not an exclusive or expensive fragrance. I'm sure Will has plenty of money and can buy whatever he likes, but apparently he likes to wear Vera Wang Men. Notes in that one include grapefruit, orange blossom, sage, nutmeg, orris root, pimento, amber and oak moss. I have tried it a few times, I don't own it. It's got a freshness, a certain fruitiness and a woodiness, a little bit of spice in there. And to be honest, I thought it was pretty good for the money, but I don't know it well. I need to revisit it now. Very intrigued to find that he wears that one. I was kind of surprised by that. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit subscribe down there, then you won't miss any of my future videos. Next one then, Hugh Jackman. By the way, there'll be some pretty kind of modern contemporary celebrities and some that are a bit more retro style, in keeping with some of my tastes. Hugh Jackman then, the well-known star of Wolverine and X-Men. Apparently his fragrance of choice is Tom Ford's Grey Vetiver, one of the not quite so expensive ones from Tom Ford. It's not part of the Private Blend series. Again, I don't own a bottle. Some of them in the list I do, so I'll put a picture up somewhere on the screen. Grey Vetiver then, of course, as the name would suggest, it has a significant vetiver note. There are citrus notes in there. Apparently there's green leaves, yuzu, nutmeg, leather, anise, sandalwood, tobacco. So a little bit of a subtle spiciness, a certain kind of soapy freshness about it, and this underlying kind of earthy, woody note of vetiver. Often mentioned in people's top 10 lists and stuff as a really good office fragrance or a good signature choice for a slightly mature man, and I guess that is fitting with Hugh Jackman. So Tom Ford Grey Vetiver, apparently his scent of choice. Next up, we'll go for a really famous one in the Fragcom, and this is Sean John, or aka Puff Daddy, or various other pseudonyms. And of course, famously, he is a fan of Creed's Millesime Imperial. I've got a 30ml bottle here. So much a fan, in fact, of this 1995, that he released his own version of it, Sean John Unforgivable, a famous inexpensive clone, which came out in 2006. The fragrance itself is a real beautiful citrus fragrance. Notes include bergamot, mandarin, lemon, iris, marine notes, sandalwood, amber and musk. You've got the air of a salty sea breeze mixed with beautiful citrus notes, apparently supposedly symbolising the citrus groves of Sicily. It's very, very fresh. It's got something kind of unique about the freshness. It's not an old school Neroli citrus cologne, and some people describe it as salty watermelon as a good way of describing the scent. I'm not sure I totally agree with that, but I kind of get where they're coming from. Really nice freshy. If you can't afford the rather expensive Creed fragrance, a great alternative is our Maths Club de Nuit Milestone. This is better to me than Club de Nuit Intense Man from Armaf, which is their Aventus clone. This one is bang on, nearly 99% the same to my nose as my Millesime Imperial, and it has better longevity. Millesime Imperial famous for not lasting that well, so I do recommend that one as an alternative if you want to smell like Sean John. Don't forget, if you'd like to join the Smelly Army private members club over on Patreon, there's a link in the description to do that. It costs just $2 a month and you get an extra video from me every week, plus you get to watch everything I've already uploaded in there. We're building a really nice community, lots of interaction, and I'd love to see you in there. Next up then, we'll go for one of my favourites fragrances, and a man that was a huge star, one of the biggest celebrities, I guess, of all time in the 20th century. Younger viewers may not be aware of that, and that's Frank Sinatra. Now, sadly passed away. I believe he died in 1998. This fragrance, apparently, Bois de Portugal, was his signature fragrance. It's from Creed again. The fragrance was released in 1987. Does that mean that Frank Sinatra only wore it for the last 11 years of his life? Or, as Creed often claims, was it one that was made for him as a bespoke fragrance some years before that, and then only subsequently got released? We may never know. Notes in this one include bergamot, lavender, sandalwood, ambergris. It is a beautiful, classic, gentlemanly fragrance. It has great performance. It's got a beautiful green bergamot opening, a lovely kind of combination of lavender with sandalwood, a kind of dusty, woody overall feel. Really gentlemanly, quite mature. Some people may say, oh, it smells like your granddad or your grandma even. I really enjoy this, and it's one of my favourites. And it was worn by Frank Sinatra, who, in case anyone doesn't know, was a famous film star and also a singer in the sort of the kind of crooning style, and just a fantastically charismatic figure. Also starred in many great films over the years, dating right back to the 1940s. And he was part of the so-called Rat Pack, along with other big stars of the time like Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin, and more. So that was his scent of choice, apparently. Again, do we know that for sure? It's certainly reputedly the case. A great inexpensive alternative to Bois de Portugal, by the way, is Lisboa by Pocket Scents. That is available in the UK only through their website, which I will link in the description. Very similar to my nose and much cheaper. Next up then, we'll go to another superstar that sadly passed away, and that's Freddie Mercury, of course, the lead singer from the band Queen. He sadly died, I think, in 1991, around about then. But he was a very famous and one of the more flamboyant people in the world of rock and roll throughout the 70s and 80s. And apparently his fragrance of choice was one that I highly approve of. Actually, I probably would say I like the fragrance a little bit more than I like the music of Queen. Sorry, Queen fans. And that's Monsieur de Givenchy, a 1959 released, sometimes described as a citrus aromatic, and at other times described as a sheep scent. I've got the vintage bottle here, which is what he would have had, because this is how it was in his day. Fantastic, beautiful green bergamot opening. Lots of kind of herbaceous, hesperidic combinations of citrus and spicy kind of herbal tones in there to my nose. There's lavender in there as well. There's carnation, floral notes. Very beautiful, classic, refined fragrance. If you like things like Chanel Pour Monsieur, that you can probably find more easily to try in the shops these days, this is in that vein. I think I may even prefer this a bit to Chanel's Pour Monsieur, so that's kind of interesting. And you can get a modern version in the Parfums Mythique series, which is really inexpensive. Not exactly the same, but very close. Brilliant everyday scent for a man. Great signature scent or office scent, I think. A little bit retro in its style, I guess you could probably say. Now, moving on then, over the page, we've got George Clooney. Of course, one of those mature men that we'd all kind of want to be as we grow older, and someone, and not a bad person to model yourself in the way that he kind of carries himself, dresses, and you would imagine he's got good taste in fragrances. I actually don't know the fragrance that he's apparently known for wearing. It's by this brand, Carthusia, an Italian niche brand, very reasonably priced for niche. Apparently he favours one called Mediterraneo from them, which is a citrus aromatic scent. It sounds really good. Notes include lemon, mint, jasmine, cardamom, white musk. It sounds like a beautiful combination of typical kind of Italian style chic citrus aromatic notes. I've actually got 1681 from them, which I love, and that is a little bit like the niche Italian version of Dior Homme, the original one, with a bit of iris in there, mixed with, again, some kind of citrusy, fresh accords. Really beautiful stuff. But yeah, the George Clooney one, apparently Mediterraneo, and I want to check that one out now, actually. Let me know, guys, if you've ever smelled it. Next, let's talk about Antonio Banderas, famous for his role in Zorro and many other films. Apparently, his scent of choice is another real old school classic. It's Dior's Eau Sauvage, one of the best citrus aromatic fragrances ever. Fantastic bergamot with jasmine and vetiver. Again, some green leafy accords in there. It was just such a revelatory and wonderful fragrance when it was created and released back in 1966 by perfumer Edmund Rudnitska. I've got a vintage bottle. It's changed a bit. Some people think it's a little bit weaker now. It probably is. There won't be real oak moss that you get in the original, but it's a beautiful, lemony, fresh white musk and vetiver fragrance that is just, again, a great signature scent. Great for every occasion. Kind of understated. You notice a lot of the celebs actually wear somewhat fresh, classy fragrances. We haven't got any big beast mode gourmands yet. Interesting. Maybe these people are tasteful, and those are tasteful fragrances. Discuss. Next up, this is a interesting one. Al Pacino, apparently in the movie Scarface, doused himself whilst filming it. It was released in 1983. He apparently doused himself to get in character in Lagerfeld Cologne, which was first released in 1978. The current bottle looks like this. They now call it Lagerfeld Classic. It's different to some of the other fragrances. This is much more of a balls out type of fragrance. It's got an orange note in the top. It's got a boozy feel to me. There's a bit of tobacco in there. There's a lot of patchouli. It's very heavy. It's quite a retro smell. Some people don't like it. Some people find it smells a bit like TCP and that kind of thing. Patchouli can. Very rich, very spicy. Kind of orange booziness with patchouli in the base and leather. I think it reminds me a bit of the drink Cointreau, and it's definitely an alpha male retro style fragrance. Perfect for playing the famous villain from Cuba, Scarface, in that 1983 classic film. Let's move on to another gentleman who's sadly no longer with us. It's David Bowie, and I think he passed away in 2016, the famous English singer. And it also had quite a few roles in films. I rather liked Labyrinth, that weird puppet movie that he did back in the 80s. But of course, you don't need me to explain about all the fantastic albums he's released and been a part of. Apparently then, it's well known to many in the frag com that his fragrance of choice was Silver Mountain Water from the House of Creed, one that's not in my collection. I have a little decant somewhere. This one again opens with bergamot. There is a blackcurrant note, a little bit of a tea note in there, and some people say an ink accord. I'm not sure how ink should smell. The other thing you pick up on this one is a slightly metallic air, and it's supposed to, of course, symbolise the mountains, I think, of Switzerland, and how the water might feel or smell. It wouldn't smell, would it, really, the water very strongly, but somehow this fragrance is supposed to encapsulate the aura of water descending from the Swiss mountains. So it's a very kind of transparent, very fresh, very bright, slightly new age kind of smell, I guess, when it was released back in the 1990s, and kind of a perfect choice for the enigmatic singer David Bowie. So Silver Mountain Water, still a really nice one. For some reason it hasn't quite made it into my collection yet. Another classic star of yesteryear, Michael Caine. Apparently he does, or at least did at some point in his life, enjoy Guerlain vetiver. So Michael Caine, of course, famous for his role in Zulu, the 1960s classic set in South Africa in the Boer War, amongst many other great films. The Italian Job, Get Carter, I like that one. Vetiver from Guerlain would be pretty suitable for such a classy guy as the British actor Michael Caine. So of course there's a prominent vetiver note. There's also lemon and neroli and some floral notes. Very, very fresh, but with this kind of earthy, very strong kind of woody, rich, earthy undertone to it, I find. And kind of a good alternative. You could A/B this with Tom Ford's vetiver and see which one you prefer. Which one do I prefer? Probably narrowly the Guerlain one. So again, this one, you can pick it up for great prices. It's not expensive, and a real beautiful, classy signature scent for a gentleman. Moving forward a little bit in time now, Leonardo DiCaprio, a star of still perhaps our era, I think you can say. Now, apparently, he likes to wear wild tobacco from Aluminum. And somewhere I've seen this described as the most masculine fragrance ever. I can't comment because I've never tried it. Notes include clove, cedar, tobacco and castoreum. So very rich and very masculine sounding in the note listing there, but I've never tried it. But Aluminum tobacco, wild tobacco apparently is his fragrance of choice. It says on the internet somewhere. Of course, Leonardo DiCaprio, you don't need me to tell you about him, but perhaps some of his famous roles include his role in the famous disaster movie Titanic, and Wolf of Wall Street, which I watched recently. Quite enjoyed that one. So that brings me to the end of the list, guys. Those were some celebrities and the fragrances they're reputed to wear. Oh, little bonus one at the end. Charlie Chaplin apparently loved Guerlain's Mitsuko. There you go. So guys, let me know what you think about that. Any other fragrances worn famously by celebrities, and what do you think about the concept? Is it a very trivial and silly thing to talk about in a video, or did you find it interesting? Even if you don't care what celebrities like to wear, at least I might have mentioned some fragrances that you might find interesting to check out. Thank you ever so much for watching, guys, and don't forget, whatever you're doing in life, let's project. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye. Smelly.